Welcome to Scary World, where we walk you through the latest and greatest in the world of horror. I am your host, Arturo Padilla. Before we get into today's movie, we have one major rule around here. No spoilers.
Okay, I'm not going to spoil the surprise.
That's out of the way.
We got some rules around here.
Remember, folks, there are 5 categories. Every category can earn a maximum of 2 points. The first category is production.
Camera shy.
How good the movie looks, how good the movie sounds, the overall execution. The second category is story.
I want a story. A story about what?
Is the script good? Is it coherent? Is the dialogue written well? The third category is ensemble.
Any of them move, you fry 'em.
Are the characters well developed? Are their actors doing a good job? Is there chemistry amongst the entire cast? The fourth category is horror.
Is it scary?
How do the horror elements fare? Was there blood? Was there gore? Was the movie scary? The fifth and last category is legacy.
Penny for your thoughts?
This is my overall thoughts and how does this movie add to the horror genre.
Showtime.
On today's show, we're covering the Screambox original movie, Here for Blood.
You what? Come on, Phoebe. I don't know how to take care of children.
Per IMDb, the synopsis goes, when his girlfriend is swamped with college exams,
Graduation day, final exam.
Tom O'Bannon, a rowdy wrestler,
I brought a real wrestler.
struggling to make ends meet, agrees to fill in as a last-minute replacement for her well-paying babysitting job. What starts off as a quiet night of pizza and video games
You've been eating pizza?
quickly spirals into a night of bloody, violent chaos. Production.
Guys gonna watch me?
This movie was directed by Daniel Terz. It was made back in 2022, but it's finally seen the light of day thanks to Screambox. Catch that on VOD if you are subscribed to Screambox, or if you have a friend who's subscribed to Screambox, you can go catch that. But in terms of what we're seeing here on the screen, it is a wild movie, folks. The director does do a admirable job of trying to keep everything controlled. It is a chaotic movie, as the synopsis said. As mentioned before, he tries to keep everything linear. He does do his best to make sure everything is nice and coherent. There are major issues in this movie, which we will get to as we break down further segments. I do wish this movie was shot a little bit with a better quality image, I guess, in mind. It looks very grainy. The director did a good job of making sure everything looked good in terms of the violence and the gore. And for production, this movie gets a 1. Story.
Evil dies tonight.
There are a lot of issues with this story, a lot of issues with this script in general. This script was actually written by first-time writer James Roberts. It needs some help. I wish they would have put a little bit more budget into a proper rewrite of the script in order to get everything nice and cohesive, because this thing goes off the rails, man, really not quickly, because that's one of its issues, but it goes off the rails pretty far into the movie here. It takes about 40 minutes to actually get into the actual story. It drags, man. It's very disappointing because that first act was actually pretty strong, and I really enjoyed watching first act, and the build up to what we were getting was it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. I was really digging it. He got deep into what the writer was trying to get to. It all fell apart for me personally. The script is not focused. It gets out of control, as I mentioned before. First act is nice and strong. It gets you kind of, it captivates you, and you kind of want to know more about what's going to happen. But when you get that information and you find out what's going on, kind of wish you didn't. And for that, this movie gets a big fat 0 for story. Ensemble.
Kill her, Mommy. Kill her.
As mentioned before, the script wasn't the best, but it did have some positives to it. The characters were actually pretty decent. They had pretty good character development. Chemistry was it was there. The actors actually gelled well. The actors did a good job with their roles. The protagonist especially was surprisingly good. Sean Roberts, actually, who played Whisker in the Resident Evil franchise, he played Tom O'Bannon, our pro wrestler, and he did a darn good job, I think, of anchoring this movie. And for ensemble, this movie gets a 1. Horror.
It's kind of spooky in here, huh?
This movie had buckets and buckets and buckets and buckets of blood.
How do you want to do this? Fist fight. Oh, all right.
But this is where a lot of us might differ in opinion. You can have a lot of buckets of blood. It doesn't mean it equates to a good movie, folks. In my opinion, you need to make sure that those buckets of blood are impactful and actually mean something and actually deliver drive story and segments. This movie is the opposite of that. It was a gore fest. It was good practical gore, I should say, but there was a major issue in my opinion. It was the overkill. It didn't know when to stop filming the actual kill scene, which I get. It's camp, it's closer to a B movie and stuff. I get it. But it goes to the point where it's looking like a cool kill, but then it's still filming and you expose the actual practical prosthetic or the practical dummy. It doesn't end up looking good after you do all that work, you know? It was really disappointing to see a bunch of scenes where there was awesome gore, awesome blood, a lot of violent, action going on, and then you just linger too much on the shot, and what you're trying to do here gets minimized by the look of the dummy itself. So in terms of the gore, as mentioned before, I love gore, but it has to make sense. Even when you spend so much time with the gore, it still doesn't really equate to much impact, unfortunately. The fact that you got to see a lot of the practical effects get exposed like that wasn't really a good look. And unfortunately, because of that, even though there was tons of blood and gore and kills here, this movie only gets a 1 for horror. I wish they would have done something different. I wish they would have cut away. It's a thing, folks. You can cut away from the shot. You don't have to just stay there. We got it. We understand that this guy is dead. Okay, so let's just move on here. Legacy.
So what do you think?
This movie was fun. It was fun. Was is the key word here, folks. It had potential, but unfortunately, because it drags so much in that second act to even get to the main story, it really lost a lot of momentum there for me, especially with a decent performance put up by Mr. Tom O'Bannon. Wish they would have shortened up the second act and cut up a lot of the kill scenes a little shorter. You would have made, I think, a little more impactful of a movie, especially with the wildness that goes on in this thing. I can't even start to describe how the story breaks down. That's why you just gotta go watch it if you're interested. In terms of legacy, it doesn't leave much of a mark in its wake, unfortunately, because of how it ended, and in terms of how it all turned out. It was how the movie ended, and in terms of how the movie was ultimately shot and executed, it deserves a 1 for legacy. There's a lot of gore and violence here, and the kills were cool, man. They were really cool. That's why it was very disappointing to see them kind of extend their shot there and overstay their welcome, if you will. And unfortunately, that's a detriment here. To me, that's a big detriment to a movie as well, especially if you already made your point with the kill itself. So to tally it up, Here for Blood received a 1 for production, a 0 for story, 1 for ensemble, 1 for horror, a 1 for legacy. bringing the total to 4. 4 out of 10 might look like a big stay away from it, but like I said before, there was potential here. Our Gorehound, this definitely will fulfill that for you 1000%. There were a bunch of kills. There's a bunch of gore here, a bunch of body parts thrown around, a bunch of heads cut off, and it was fun. There was moments here where you're having fun, you're captivated by the main character and by the little girl that he's babysitting, ultimately because it just drags so much. And then once you get the final reveal of actually what happens and what the story actually is supposed to be, you're already kind of like, man, I already sat through 40 minutes of this, I got to do another hour. It becomes a little ridiculous after a while. And this is why it broke down to a 4. As I said before, this movie is available on Screenbox. So if you are looking for a lot of blood this weekend, Here for Blood is for you.
Can you tell me what time it is?
It's a wrap, folks. Thank you for watching Scary World. Please drop a comment down below and also hit the thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Like, subscribe, and share, and tell all your friends about Scary World. Don't forget to check out The Morgue, the official CorpseFeed podcast. Don't forget to check out everything else The Morgue has to offer. All the social feeds for you guys. We have reviews everywhere on Instagram, on TikTok, on X, on Facebook. Go check us out. Go like, go subscribe, go share, and remember, it's a scary world out there, but we are here to walk you through it.
I just wanted to say goodbye.